Have you ever felt a vague longing, as if you once lived before, in another era, another body, another name? A 3-year-old child describes in detail how he died during World War II. A woman fluently speaks an ancient language she never learned. A man fears water so deeply that he avoids the sea his entire life, until hypnosis reveals he once drowned. A coincidence? Or are these memories of the soul awakening? In this video, I will guide you through some of the most astonishing evidence of past life memories, decoding what modern science still struggles to explain. And beyond that, I'll invite you to reconnect with the light within you, the part that has lived, loved, lost, and now waits to be remembered. Part 1. Why do people always long to know about past lives? Thousands of years ago, before humans knew the Earth was round, before ancient civilizations even had concepts like DNA or the brain, a deep and persistent question echoed within each person. Where did I come from? Who was I before this name, this body, this life? Some questions don't arise from intellect, but from the soul. And the question of past lives is one of them. Not everyone is ready to face it, because to truly confront it, you must let go of the belief that life is linear, that you live only once, and that after death there is only endless darkness. But for those who have paused, truly paused, and felt the existence that lies beneath the physical surface, they know. Something is resonating from within, a truth that can't be named, yet the quieter it is, the clearer it becomes. It's no coincidence that from ancient cultures like Egypt, India, China, Greece, to African tribes and Mayan traditions, all share a remarkable common belief: the belief in reincarnation, that the soul continues after death, and each lifetime is merely a small chapter in the grand book of soul evolution. In tribal communities, children might be named after departed ancestors. Wise sages practiced remembering past lives through meditation, hypnosis, or spiritual dreams. And in ancient carvings, symbols of the cycle of rebirth appear, where the soul passes through birth, aging, sickness, death not just once, but hundreds, even thousands of times, to learn, to understand, and to grow. The longing to know about past lives doesn't come from mere curiosity. It's a hunger to remember one's true essence, a restless need to understand why we chose certain lessons, why suffering repeats, and why connections with strangers can feel deeper than blood ties. Many have experienced the moment of meeting a stranger and feeling, in an instant, as though they've known them for lifetimes. Some step foot on distant lands and their heart bursts, as if a lost homeland has been found. There are recurring dreams of eras that don't exist in present memory, nightmares that defy explanation from any current life event, yet leave an aching trace as if they were real. None of that is delusion. They are echoes of the soul, fragments of past life memories sealed behind the veil of forgetting, but still alive, still breathing, still waiting to be awakened in moments of spiritual clarity. And the question arises, why do we forget? Why aren't our past life memories carried over clearly into this life? The answer lies in the soul's protective mechanism. Every time a soul enters a new lifetime, it passes through an energetic veil, the veil, where all past memories are blurred, so the soul can fully commit to living the present life without the interference of the past. Because if you remembered everything, you wouldn't be able to live freely. You'd carry the burden of hundreds of stories, identities, deaths, and unresolved griefs. And yet at the right moment, those memories reawaken. That's why today, as humanity's collective vibration rises, more and more people are awakening, remembering, regressing, and even reconnecting with soul fragments they once dismissed as imagination. Among hundreds of millions across the world, there are children who speak ancient languages never taught, adults who suddenly shift personalities after recurring dreams, people unable to overcome a fear of drowning until hypnosis reveals they once died submerged in water during an untraceable era. Why do people yearn to know about past lives? Not because they want to live in the past, but because they want to understand themselves, to understand why they were born into this family, why they're drawn to certain lands, why some people come and go, leaving wounds deeper than time itself, why lessons like loss, control, betrayal cling to them like fate. And if they are brave enough to remember, they can awaken, heal, and be free. That is the deepest reason why the topic of past life memories continues to stir sensitive souls. Not to prove with logic that past lives are real, but to feel with the heart that I have been more than I ever thought, and I can become even more if I dare to look into the light sleeping within me. What are soul memories? Where are they stored? Why do they remain? Memory, as commonly understood, is a product of the brain. It resides somewhere in the folds of the cortex, formed through experiences, encoded into electrical impulses and chemicals, stored like data in a living hard drive. But that is only the memory of the body, of the present life. When the body dissolves, that physical memory vanishes with it, like a computer engulfed in flames. But there is another kind of memory, deeper, quieter, one that is not swept away by time or death. This type of memory is not stored in cells, but in light. It is not written in language, but in vibration. And it is not located in the head, but in the soul's energy field. We call it soul memory. The soul, according to mystical traditions and spiritual schools, is a living energy being, existing beyond the limits of space and time, independent of the body, unborn and undying. The soul has no age, but it has a journey. Every time it enters a body to live a human life, it experiences and it remembers. Not in the human sense of remembering, but by recording the vibrational frequency of every emotion, choice, action, and lesson. Every time you love, your soul remembers the frequency of that love. Every time you betray, it also records that vibration. Every time you forgive, abuse, sacrifice, feel jealousy, suffer, or burst with joy, all of it leaves an imprint. That is why the older the soul, the deeper the emotion. Such people have strong intuition, great compassion, natural wisdom, inexplicable sadness, and an urge that cannot be explained by material things. So, if these memories aren't stored in the brain, then where are they kept? The answer lies in an ancient but precise concept, the Akashic Records, also known as the Soul's Chronicles. This is a kind of universal library that holds all the data about every event, every choice, every lifetime, and every vibration that has ever occurred, not just yours, but of every living being in the universe. Akasha is not a physical place. It is a living field of information, a quantum soul field, where each soul has its own personal record documenting its evolutionary journey. And each time the soul reincarnates, it does not lose its past memories. It merely closes that section of data temporarily to focus on learning new lessons. Just like turning to a new page in a book, not because you've forgotten the previous ones, but because you're continuing the story. The old content is still there, just waiting for you to return, if needed. So what causes a part of that memory to come back? It happens when the soul is ready to face and heal an unfinished lesson. The current energy field resonates with a memory of the same frequency. You enter a heightened vibrational state, such as deep meditation, hypnosis, a near-death experience, or spiritual awakening, or simply when someone, someplace, or something touches the right old wound. Soul memory doesn't return like a documentary film. It doesn't use words, vivid images, or logical facts. It rises through feelings, through a shiver, a dream, an intuition, an unexplainable fear, or an intense affection for someone you've just met. And it confuses you, because you can't find a reasonable explanation, but you know it's real. Sometimes you don't understand why you've always feared fire, water, or heights, even though you've never experienced any accident. Perhaps you once died in a fire. Perhaps you sank to the ocean floor. Perhaps you fell from a cliff. Your current body doesn't remember, but your soul never forgets. There are also times when you feel lonely, not because no one is around, but because part of you knows you have lost too much in a past life, and now you keep your distance to avoid suffering again. Or you keep falling into relationships that repeat the same kind of pain, not because you haven't learned, but because the lesson hasn't yet been resolved at its root. And sometimes that root lies in a previous life. Soul memory doesn't return to hurt you. It returns to help you see what remains unhealed, so you can choose again from the light. Many people who experience past life regression through hypnosis don't just see who they were. They feel liberated when they understand why they've always lived with certain persistent emotions. A woman who had been abandoned in many past lives, once she remembers, suddenly understands why, in this life, she always clings to those who don't deserve her. A man who was once a ruthless warrior, upon realizing this, suddenly sees why he lives in guilt and never allows himself to succeed. Memory doesn't return to punish, it returns to offer you a key. And if you know how to listen, you can free yourself. Your soul doesn't need to remember every detail of the past to awaken. It only needs you to stop unconsciously repeating the past. Because when you are present enough, quiet enough, compassionate enough with yourself, and patient enough to ask, what am I learning through this pain? What am I repeating that no longer serves me? Who do I need to forgive, even if it's an old version of myself? That is the moment when past life memory becomes a healing light. Part 3. Astonishing evidence. When soul memories awaken and science must listen. Since ancient times, stories of reincarnation and past life memories have always been part of humanity's mystical heritage. Yet in the modern age, when science has reached dazzling heights, when rationality seems to be the only light humans trust, memories from a life once lived unexpectedly return. They do not only appear in dreams or deep meditative states, but emerge through the words of children too young to lie, through the raw truths of living witnesses, and especially through fateful encounters between two worlds, the spiritual and the scientific. None other than Dr. Ian Stevenson, professor of psychiatry at the University of Virginia, was the pioneer who opened this gateway. He devoted more than 40 years of his life to studying the phenomenon of children who remember past lives. Not with blind faith, but with the strict methodology of empirical science, Stevenson did what no one dared to believe. He collected, verified, and documented over 2,500 cases of children from around the world. Children who couldn't yet read, had never left their villages, yet vividly described another life with astonishing detail. They recounted names they once bore, places they had lived, professions, the way they died, even describing their former families and friends. Real people with traceable records. But what shocked Stevenson most was this. Many of those children bore physical signs, birthmarks, deformities, even scars, that precisely matched the cause of death of the person they claimed to have been. A boy had an unusual dent in his chest, right where the man from his memory had been shot. A girl had a throat defect, matching her account of being stabbed in the neck. These marks, unexplained by genetics, appeared as if the new body still bore the imprints of trauma unresolved from a previous life. Step by step, Stevenson led the scientific world to the edge between what was known and what was emerging. While he never declared reincarnation to be absolute truth, the evidence he brought forth was compelling enough to force the academic world to listen and to no longer dismiss the question. If you think this was just the work of a rare researcher, listen to the story of James Leininger, an American boy born in 1998 who shook international media with his bizarre recollections of a previous life. From the moment he began speaking, James had violent nightmares of burning airplanes, of a pilot crashing into the sea and dying in flames. He repeatedly uttered the name James Houston, the name of an aircraft carrier, the name of a comrade, and even the exact technical terms for Wu-2 fighter planes, information impossible for a 3-year-old to know. He drew exploding planes in frightening detail and wept uncontrollably while watching war documentaries, saying, "I was there." James's parents, devout Christians who did not believe in reincarnation, began investigating, and then they were shaken. Everything their son said was true. James Houston, a U.S. Marine pilot, was shot down in 1945, just as the boy had described. The ship's name, the comrade, the circumstances of his death, all matched official military records. It was no longer superstition, but a profound reminder that soul memory is real. Past life recall isn't limited to children. It's also been observed in deep therapeutic states, especially in past life regression therapy. And the trailblazer in this field is Dr. Brian L. Weiss, former head of psychiatry at Mount Sinai Medical Center, Miami, who went from a rational scientist to a guide for thousands seeking their soul's memories. The turning point came with a woman named Catherine, who suffered from chronic anxiety that could not be cured by conventional medicine. In a therapeutic hypnosis session, she unexpectedly began recounting past lives. As a slave killed in Egypt, a woman drowned in ancient Greece, a child who died of famine in Asia. Details she had never read, never been taught, yet described with striking historical accuracy. Even more astonishing, After each regression session, her psychological symptoms gradually disappeared. In that moment, Dr. Weiss realized the fears people carry may not come from this life, but from wounds the soul has not yet healed from the past. He went on to write the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, opening a new era in psychological therapy and simultaneously building a spiritual bridge between past life memory and the path of present healing. Then there are cases even more extraordinary, where children speak ancient languages they've never studied, or adults see vivid dreamscapes that turn out to be real places. A man in England suddenly began writing in Sumerian script, a language extinct for thousands of years. A boy in Syria described in detail how he had been murdered in a previous life, led adults to the exact burial site, and they found the bones and the weapon exactly as he had described. You might say, it's a coincidence. But when thousands of cases around the world align with chilling precision, coincidence ceases to be a valid excuse. Past life memory is no longer just a spiritual topic. It is becoming a truth that demands to be heard. And increasingly young souls, extraordinary children, those with heightened intuition, are continuing to voice their memories as living testimony to what the universe has never truly hidden, that death is not the end, and memory is never erased as long as the soul still has lessons to learn and evolve. Part 4. Memory is not an illusion, a perspective from energy, frequency, and the soul's essence. Throughout the long history of humanity's spiritual evolution, past life memory has always existed like an underground river flowing beneath the surface of awareness. It doesn't need proof to exist, nor belief to have value. Soul memory is a living part of human essence, a layer of energetic data that transcends the limits of the brain, time, and linear space. And each time you feel a deep vibration from a song you've never heard, a pair of eyes you've never seen, or a recurring dream about a distant place, that may be the moment when such memory is rising from the shadows of forgetting. To understand why past life memory is not an illusion, we must begin with a shift in perception, from seeing humans as biological machines to seeing humans as conscious, energetic beings, a soul temporarily inhabiting a physical body. Modern science is beginning to touch this truth. Quantum physics confirms that everything in the universe, including the body, emotions, and thoughts, is vibration. And the soul, no exception to that rule, is also an energetic field with a unique frequency, formed and developed over countless lifetimes. In each lifetime, the soul accumulates experiences, lessons, emotions, and choices. These do not disappear when the body dies, but are preserved as frequency data, like sound waves that do not vanish but only change form. These imprints are soul memories. They are not stored in the brain, but in the energy field surrounding you. An invisible yet vibrant field known by many names: aura, light body, or in modern scientific terms, the personal quantum field. And just like data encoded in electromagnetism, past life memory is a refined type of energetic information that is not erased by time. You may not recall it in words, but your soul remembers through sensation. When a current situation shares a frequency with a past memory, it can trigger deep, inexplicable emotions, intense vibrations, or even behaviors that cannot be explained by experiences from this life. Do you fear water so much that you can't swim in the ocean even though you've never had an accident? Maybe you once drowned. Do you always feel wary of men or keep choosing unsafe partners? Maybe your soul still holds the wound of betrayal from a distant lifetime. Do you see someone and feel like your heart is being squeezed? Very likely they were once an unresolved fragment in your soul's journey. None of that is illusion. Illusion is born from a distorted mind, but past life memory is the honest echo of something that truly existed. And you're not the only one who feels it. Thousands, millions of people, from different cultures, beliefs, and ages, have reported similar experiences. A child in India clearly remembers their name and home from a previous life. An American man dreams of being a Viking warrior, only to later discover the place truly exists. A girl in Turkey recounts memories in ancient Hebrew, though she has never been exposed to the language. If that is imagination, how can they provide information they never learned? If it's coincidence, how could it repeat so precisely among thousands? And if it's pathology, why do so many people feel healed, both mentally and physically, after remembering as if they've just released an invisible lock. From the perspective of energy, this makes complete sense. Past life memory is made of incomplete vibrations, emotions not yet released, lessons not yet integrated. They are compressed in your energy field like unfinished chapters in your soul's book. And whenever you come close to a similar frequency, through a person, a place, a dream, or an event, those chapters will rise, not to frighten you, but to be seen, understood, and finally released. That's why soul memory often awakens in special states. When you're in deep meditation, when you have a near-death experience, when you're in an existential crisis, or when you simply pause long enough to ask a sincere question, who am I? In that moment, your vibrational layers begin to open, and fragments of memory that seemed forgotten will start to speak, not through words, but through a sensation so real your heart cannot deny it. A gentle touch from someone makes you want to cry. A scene in a movie leaves you breathless, without knowing why. A piece of music makes you feel as if you've just lost something sacred from hundreds of years ago. Those moments are not oversensitivity. They are memory portals opening. In truth, you don't need to force yourself to remember who you were. Because what matters is not the name you had in a past life, but which lesson you are still carrying, and still learning in this one. And if you find yourself repeating the same pain, attracting the same kinds of people, falling into familiar patterns without knowing why, maybe it's not cruel fate, but a past life memory that has not been healed. Once you understand that everything is vibration, you'll no longer try to remember with your intellect. You'll begin to listen with energy. Listen to your body. Listen to your emotions. Listen to the powerful triggers in your relationships, because the soul speaks through frequency. And if you are still enough, you'll hear the whispers of past lives still alive within you through today's lessons. Past life memory doesn't come to make you obsessed with the past. It comes to help you end unconscious cycles, so you no longer repeat the same mistakes, no longer be ruled by wounds you cannot name. It comes to help you reclaim your freedom. The freedom to choose a new path through light, instead of living forever in the darkness of an unfinished lesson. And if you're reading these lines, maybe your soul is already ready, not to know who you were, but to live as a soul that has been everything and still carries the light to remember. Part 5. Why do past life memories arise? Signs and moments when the soul begins to remember. There are moments in life when we pause and suddenly everything feels strangely unfamiliar, as if we no longer belong to this lifetime. A person passes briefly through our lives and stirs the heart like a distant bell. A faraway land evokes an unnamed longing. A song, a dream, a gaze, a sudden event awakens something ancient within us, something we cannot name yet feels undeniably real. And quietly, past life memories begin to return. Not everyone experiences this, but for those who begin to remember, the feeling is like being unlocked. An invisible door in consciousness opens, and from it, buried emotions, deep connections beyond logic, powerful vibrations beyond ordinary comprehension begin to rise. So why do past life memories come back? And why do only some people remember? The answer isn't luck, nor is it about being special. It lies in the soul's vibrational frequency and the deep readiness within each person. The soul never forces you to remember what you're not ready for. But when you are strong enough, awake enough, and sensitive enough, those memories will surface on their own, like an underground river finding its way back to the surface. The moment memory begins to emerge is often linked to major life events: loss, breakups, existential crisis, illness, accidents, or deep internal transformation. In those moments, the shell of the ego cracks and the soul, long covered by the veil of forgetting, begins to leak light once more. You might not know why you cry when seeing a fire, why the ocean makes you feel breathless with fear, why you feel pulled toward ancient cultures, toward lands you've never visited. But your heart knows. Memory is awakening you. Past life memory may also arise when you embark on a deep healing journey. Meditation, spiritual therapies, energy work, or simply sitting in silence listening to yourself, all can become gateways to the soul's memory field. When you clear surface noise, you can hear the voice within. And in that voice, you may begin to see who you once were, who you once loved, who you once lost, and what lessons remain unfinished. There is one special moment many experience, when they reunite with a soul companion from a previous life. It could be a lover, a life partner, a close friend, or even a former enemy. No explanation is needed. You feel a deep familiarity as if you've known them for ages. In their eyes, you see a version of yourself from long ago. In their voice, you hear the melodies of your soul. And in their embrace, you are either healed or painfully reawakened to wounds that have not yet closed. When two souls who were once connected reunite, the energetic resonance between them can powerfully activate memory. This explains why some relationships feel destined, beautiful yet challenging, intense yet full of pain. It may be that these souls once vowed to learn a lesson together, and now they meet again to complete what was left unfinished. That's not coincidence. That's the reunion of souls who made a promise before reincarnation. Some people don't have dramatic experiences, but they carry a constant, unnameable yearning, a feeling of alienation from the world, a deep intuition that they don't belong here. These are often old souls, those who have lived many lives, who've experienced all forms of human emotion, and now carry a profound desire to live aligned with their soul. For them, memory needs no words. It lives in the way they feel, the way they look, the way they love, and the way they ache. When these memories arise, your soul is sending a message. It's time to be free. Not to keep you stuck in the past, but to help you understand why the present is the way it is. Repeating cycles, intense emotions, patterns of pain, all may be signs of a past life memory awaiting your light. Because when light is cast upon darkness, darkness is no longer darkness. The most important thing when memory returns is, don't run from it. Sit down, place your hand on your heart, and whisper, "I am ready to listen." You don't need to understand everything to heal. You only need to be present with what arises. No judgment, no analysis, because that loving presence will decode everything on its own. Also, don't force yourself to remember clearly. Some remember through dreams, some remember through meditation, some never see specific images, yet feel a truth deeper than any explanation. Feeling is the purest form of the soul's memory. And once you've remembered, choose forgiveness. Forgive the souls who once hurt you. Forgive yourself, in whatever form you once were. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means seeing everything clearly and still choosing love. Past life memory does not return to drown you in the illusion of time. It comes to hand you the key to freedom. You don't need to know exactly who you were. You only need to live this life with the awareness of someone who has been everything and now chooses to live in light, not fear. And if you are feeling these words, maybe you are already standing at the very moment your soul has waited for a long time. Keep walking and trust, everything is coming back, not to confuse you, but to help you remember who you truly are. Part 6. What to do when past life memories return. Understanding, healing, and transformation. Some memories never fade. They don't reside in the shallow recall of the brain, nor do they belong to recurring movie scenes or dreams. They come from the depths of the soul, from a place beyond time, beyond names, where only feeling remains, raw and piercingly real. And one day, when those memories resurface, not like a clear film, but like a silent wave flooding your awareness, you know something within you has changed forever. When past life memories return, the first feeling is not joy, but a vibration. A part of you is awakened, a part you thought had been asleep for centuries. You can't name the emotion, but you know it's real. A casual touch makes you shiver. A gaze feels like you've returned from a long dream. A voice soothes your heart while sending it trembling. Not everyone is ready for this, because memory, even sacred memory, can carry pain, loss, regret, and vows left unresolved. But if you are someone sensing its return, it means your soul has chosen to look back, to heal and release. The first thing to understand is this: past life memory does not come to punish you. It's not meant to trap you in the past. It comes to be seen, like a forgotten child knocking to be held again. It wants to be welcomed, not judged. It wants you to sit with yourself and say, "I'm ready to hear your story," whether it's a joyful tale or one of sorrow, whether I was light or shadow. Acceptance is the first step of transformation. Don't try to understand it with your mind. Feel it with your heart. Some memories won't show up like a movie scene, but they'll come as dense emotions, a nameless sadness, an irrational fear. a strange attachment to things unrelated to your current life. All of these are signals, echoes of the soul asking to be heard. One way to access these layers of memory is to write. Write like a flowing stream, uncensored, unstructured. You don't have to write well or correctly, you only have to be honest. Write about recurring dreams. Write about someone who stirs your soul. Write about the vague memories you've never dared to share. With every line, you're not just expressing, you're opening a door to the deep within, where an older version of yourself is still waiting, saying, "I'm still here. I never disappeared." Besides writing, meditation is a powerful way to open the path for memory to return. Not meditating to control thoughts, but meditating to open your heart, to become a still surface upon which all images may reflect. You can meditate with one question in your heart. If there's something my soul wants me to remember today, what is it? Then let your body guide you. Maybe you'll see a strange scene. Maybe you'll hear an ancient phrase. Maybe you'll feel something deeply familiar from a place you've never been. Don't rush to label it. Just stay with the feeling. Feeling is the soul's first language. For those who want to go deeper, past life regression therapy is a profound tool, but it is not for the curious or thrill seekers. It's for those truly ready to heal on a soul level. A regression session is not to find out who I was as someone famous, but to meet yourself, the unfinished version, and give them the hug they once needed. You don't have to pursue regression. Many people recall memories without any formal therapy, through meditation, dreams, or deep moments of connection. What matters is not the technique. What matters is the vibration you emit. When you resonate at the frequency of love, forgiveness, and presence, you touch the most sacred memories of your soul, even without trying. And when those memories arise, you'll need one more thing: forgiveness. Forgiveness for those who once hurt you, even if that someone was yourself in another lifetime. Forgiveness is not forgetting, it's releasing the wound as a weapon. Forgiveness is the act of a soul mature enough to understand everyone who enters your life is a teacher, a mirror, a part of the lesson you once chose long ago. You can forgive through ritual. Write their name, write your own. Burn the paper in silence and say, "I release you. I release myself." We owe each other nothing but love and light. That is the ritual of souls who have completed their lesson and are ready to move forward. When past life memory is welcomed, healed, and released, it not only helps you understand yourself, it breaks the cycle of repeated behavior, the cycle of unconscious wounds, the cycle of unhealthy relationships. It returns to you the power to choose again from the light, not from fear. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to become the brightest version of your soul today. And you are not alone. Millions of souls are awakening with you. They are remembering. They are rewriting their stories from a place of light, not shadow. And you, by daring to walk this path, are becoming a small light, so that others, when they see you, may have the courage to ask, "Maybe, I'm beginning to remember too." Part 7. Past Life Regression. A gateway to memory and a journey of deep healing. Throughout the soul's awakening journey, there comes a special moment when a person not only feels the vibration of past life memory, but is guided to look back, face it, and heal it with clarity. And one of the gateways that allows us to enter that mystical depth is past life regression, an experience that is both scientific and spiritual, both miraculous and practical, one that decodes the past while liberating the present. Regression is not a new technique born from modern spiritual trends. It has been used for thousands of years in ancient Eastern mystical traditions, as a ritual to connect with past lives, helping practitioners understand karma and evolve spiritually. But in modern times, regression has been reapproached through a new lens, as a deep healing therapy embraced by thousands of therapists, psychiatrists, and awakened individuals, serving as a bridge between body, mind, soul. So what is regression? It is the process of guiding you into a deep state of relaxation, similar to meditation or light hypnosis, where your logical mind is quieted, allowing the subconscious and unconscious layers, where soul memory resides, to speak. In that state, you are not controlled, not unconscious, not asleep. You are simply open to being guided from within. As regression begins, many people enter strange images, seeing themselves in unfamiliar lands, wearing ancient clothing, living stories that don't belong to their current life. But what matters isn't what they see, it's what they feel. A surge of emotion, a trembling in the body, an uncontrollable sob, a pain that feels like it happened just yesterday. That is the deep memory being activated. Some see themselves as warriors, mothers who lost their children, victims of war, or even perpetrators of great harm. Others witness deaths from poverty, betrayal, or lonely lives. But the point is not to relive pain. It's to look back at it with light, to release what's still stuck. A woman once had a mysterious fear of fire, unable to approach stoves or candles. In regression, she saw herself as a woman burned alive during the Middle Ages, accused of being a witch. Only after reliving that memory, feeling the injustice and helplessness she once carried, did she cry and reach a deep sense of forgiveness, not just for those who burned her, but for herself, for carrying that fear across lifetimes. After the session, her fear of fire gradually disappeared. Another man lived with constant guilt, though he had done nothing wrong, lived well, had a happy family. In regression, he saw himself as a wartime officer, forced to order the execution of innocent civilians. He had carried that silent torment from that life into this one. But when the memory returned, he faced it, not to punish himself, but to understand. Even mistakes are lessons. And only when he embraced himself in both light and shadow could his soul move freely toward healing. Past life regression is not about telling good stories, not about boasting who you once were, not about clinging to the past as a new identity. Regression only holds meaning when you return to the present with a more open heart, deeper awareness, and more mindful action. Yes, regression is not for living in the past. It is for awakening in the present with all the light your soul has ever held. However, regression is not the path for everyone, nor is it a tool to be used hastily. Not everyone is ready to face their deepest layers. Those with severe psychological instability, disconnection from reality, or those approaching regression out of mere curiosity, often gain little value. Regression must be approached with humility, reverence for the soul's journey, and unconditional acceptance of what will be revealed. If you feel ready, seek out experienced practitioners, those with spiritual ethics, who walk with you rather than impose. They will not tell you who you were. They will guide you to hear your inner voice, the one you may have silenced for too long. In some cases, you don't need formal regression therapy. Just sitting in deep meditation, holding a heartfelt question, or listening closely to your body, you may remember in your own unique way. A feeling that's too real, a fleeting image, a sorrow so deep it defies explanation. And sometimes that's all you need, to know that a part of you is returning and wants to be welcomed. Regression is just a tool. The real journey lies in how you live after the memory returns. Will you repeat old pain, or will you walk forward with a heart cleansed, having learned how to love yourself even in your flawed forms? Memory is not a chain. Memory is a mirror, and when you dare to look into it, not to judge but to learn, to understand, to let go, you become a free soul. You step out of the loop, you step into awakening. Part 8. You don't need to seek past lives, because the light has always been within you. Perhaps after everything you've read, felt, and reflected on throughout these parts, a deeply human question is now echoing within you. Who was I? That question is not wrong. In fact, it is very real, very human, and profoundly heartfelt. It is the call of a soul trying to look back on the journey it has taken, not out of curiosity, but from a longing to understand oneself on the deepest level. But perhaps you'll be surprised to learn, you don't need to know who you were to become everything you're seeking. Past life memories, after all, are just chapters already written in the infinite book of your soul. Some chapters are joyful, some painful, some radiant, some dark. But you are not those chapters. You are the one holding the pen. And in this very moment, you can choose to write differently, with a new awareness. An awareness that says, I am no longer confined by the roles I once played, but I can choose to live another way, deeper, brighter, lighter. You may have once been a warrior, a mother who lost her child, a betrayed lover, a reclusive monk, a homeless wanderer, someone who hurt, or someone who was hurt. You may have once been loved unconditionally or abandoned without a word. But all of those forms, all of those stories, no matter how real, are still only temporary garments. Your soul never changed. It remains a stream of light that cannot be extinguished, still expanding, still learning how to return. Through each lifetime, through every choice, through each moment you pause and ask, am I living from love or from fear? You don't need regression to know who you were, because every small gesture in the present already reveals your vibration. The way you hold your child in your arms, the way you respond to someone rude, the way you stay silent when misunderstood, the way you forgive even without an apology, the way you reject violence without losing your kindness, the way you say I love you without needing to be loved in return. All of this is your soul whispering, and sometimes it is more sacred than any image from a past life. You may not recall clear images, but you will feel. You will feel a vague weight in your chest when you witness familiar injustices, a gentle light in your heart when you touch a new land that feels like home, a strange bond with souls who enter your life like fate, and sometimes a sorrow without cause, a joy without name, a vibration so real you can't explain. Those vibrations, that is memory. Not memory in images, but memory in frequency. And if your soul is remembering in frequency, then what matters is not knowing exactly who you were, but living truthfully with what you feel, with full presence. Don't strain to be enlightened. Don't doubt to avoid yourself. Just stay, deeply, with who you are. Because the truest memory doesn't reside in the past, but in how you live the present. The one who has been hurt and still opens their heart to love. The one who has been betrayed and still doesn't shut down. The one who is lost but still cherishes every small joy. These are the people living as if they've already remembered. They don't need proof, they don't need validation, they only need to love, gently. You don't need to find your past life, because the light you're carrying is the sum of every life you've lived. You've been everything, and today you get to choose again. Choose light, choose healing, choose compassion, choose presence. If someone asks who you were, you can simply smile and say, I'm someone learning to live with an awakened heart. And that, in itself, is a sacred answer. We don't need to return to the past to escape the present. We just need to return inward. So the present becomes the place where all versions of the soul are welcomed and made whole. You no longer need to run from pain. No need to play any former role. You only need to return to yourself, in honesty, in light, in the quiet call of a journey still unfolding. Because the return doesn't happen in grand rituals. It happens when you sit in stillness, look up at the sky, and realize you are no longer alone. You are light. You have always been light, and you are now ready to remember that. You don't need to prove that past lives are real. You only need to be honest with your heart, the heart that still trembles every time you hear a story about reincarnation, every time you brush against a blurry memory with no explanation. Past life memory is not for living in the past. It is for understanding why the present keeps repeating old lessons. When you begin to remember, you begin to heal. When you forgive yourself, you break the karmic loop. When you let go of the question, who was I, and instead ask, what light am I living as today? That is when the true return to the soul begins. If this video has touched you, share it with another soul who is seeking, because light is not just for seeing yourself, it's for guiding those still lost in the fog of forgetting. Namaste. From my soul to yours. We have met before, and now we are coming home, together.